Hello Normans and welcome back to this week's Norman News. I'm Suomi.
And I'm Natalie Gold. Stay tuned for news on the KBEV auditions.
And more on what Beverly Hills is doing to support Ukraine. Around the school in 15 minutes.
This is the Norman News.
Hello Normans. Starting March 7th through March 28th, KBEV will be holding auditions for admissions into our advanced class. This is the class period that produces the Norman News and the Norman Update. The auditionee will be auditioning for a part of the KBEV tech team and or the broadcast journalism area of the class. To audition, please fill out the audition link on the KBEV website under Apply at kbev6.com. We look forward to seeing what you got. Now to Natalie with World News.
Thanks, Grace. The war which broke out on February 24th is nowhere near over, and the bombing and shelling being brought down on Ukraine by Russia is continuing. Russian forces have taken control of Ukraine's nuclear power plant and sent fire there as well. This is the largest nuclear power plant in all of Europe. President Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has encouraged other leaders of the world to help stop Russia before this becomes a nuclear disaster. NATO has accused Russia of using cluster bombs on Ukraine. However, NATO is currently not seeking a war with Russia. Switzerland has broken its 200-year-long neutrality policy to sanction Russia. A good portion of the $350 million security assistance package has been delivered to Ukraine from the United States. 1 million people from Ukraine have fled the country as Russia captures a key city in the south. Ukraine and Russia have come to an agreement to have safe humanitarian corridors for civilian evacuations. Now to Eden with more world news.
Thanks, Natalie. As we know, on February 24th, Russia has officially invaded Ukraine under President Vladimir Putin's orders. President Putin has frequently accused Ukraine of being a threat to Russia's security, and tensions have increased since Ukraine's current president, Vladimir Zelensky, came into power. Russia has long resisted Ukraine's move towards the European Union and the West's offensive military alliance, NATO, that Russia is not a member of. It is now clear that Russia is seeking to seize the big cities and overthrow Ukraine's democratically elected government. For days, Russia has deployed thousands of soldiers and launched missiles to Ukraine. At least 22 people have been killed in airstrikes. The newest development, however, is Ukraine's President Zelensky has asked Vladimir Putin for one-to-one talks, saying this is the only way to end the war. More than 1 million people have fled Ukraine since the invasion began. Our thoughts are with all the people of Ukraine and hope they remain safe during this chaotic time. More news of this scary situation to follow soon. Now to Nora with local news.
Thanks, Eden. Beverly Hills is one of the cities with a majority of Jewish people living there in the U.S., which is why they decided to stand with Ukraine during these uncertain times. The resolution was passed unanimously, which condemns Russia because of their actions. The resolution also states that any and all funds tied to Russia will be cut off and all contracts will be terminated with Russian firms. City Council member Julian Gold states that no option should be off the table, even asking if the city should place additional taxes on Russian vodka. Now to Deborah with entertainment.
Thanks, Nora. This week starts a new season of Milan Fashion Week, featuring multiple brands' winter collection. Known brands such as Prada, Fendi, Armani, and Versace and many more contributed on corresponding bright and elastic colors known to be the next clothing trend in 2022. Bold clothing patterns, unusual fabrics, and exotic accessories have been seen on models who walk the runway. Women who wanted to walk the runway were celebrated this season as they represented Women's History Month. Prada quotes, "This collection is about the history of women in the history of people, not the history of fashion," which goes against past year's show where the main focus was setting trends in fashion, not in representation. Now to Natalie with this week's movie review.
The Batman was released on March 4th, 2022, and already has an 8.6 out of 10 on IMDb. This film stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, and Jeffrey Wright. This movie follows Bruce Wayne, also known as Batman, who is on the tail of the Riddler, the main villain of this movie. The Riddler is a sadistic serial killer who has started killing main political figures in Gotham. Batman has to venture into the underworld of Gotham to follow the trail of cryptic clues left by the Riddler. Bruce must learn to lean on others, create new relationships, unmask the killer, and bring justice to his corrupt metropolis. Now let's send it to Julia with this week's field report.
Police! Hands up! Stay still! Get out of here!
Fear is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. I've been trying to reach you. Burn the gun! This is a powder king, and Riddler's the match.
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Whoa! Take it easy, sweetheart. Hear everything they say, ain't you?
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance. What's black and blue and dead all over? You. Take it.
I got you! I got you!
Hi, I'm Julia.
I'm London.
And I'm Eden.
As of March 12th, the mask mandate will be lifted for all schools.
And after 2 years of wearing masks, Beverly students have a lot of thoughts on this.
Let's see what they have to say. Keep watching.
How do you feel about not having to wear masks at school anymore?
I think it's going to be a lot better. It's going to be easier to breathe in class, and I feel like I could focus more that way.
How do you feel about the mask mandate being lifted?
Honestly, it doesn't matter for me. Like, either way, I'm fine.
How do you feel about the mask mandate being lifted?
As soon as the mask mandate becomes lifted, I'm gonna take all my boxes of masks, light a fire, and throw them all in the fire.
How do you feel about the mask mandate being lifted?
I'm really happy, and that's it. Thank you.
How do you feel about not having to wear masks to school anymore?
I feel like I agree with it because whenever I'm at school, I can't really breathe sometimes. So now that the mask mandate is being lifted, I'm like excited. So, yeah.
Thanks, Julia. Elden Ring has been one of the most anticipated games of all time, and I am sad to speak on how much this game disappoints me, because I now know there will never be a better game to ever exist. I didn't expect to call any game this early in the year the big one, but this is the big one. A collaboration between George R.R. Martin, yes, the guy who wrote the good parts of Game of Thrones, and From Software, creators of the Soulsborne genre of games, collaborated on a singular product. That alone should make you want to buy the collector's edition. You play as a Tarnished, an immortal being who is accompanied by a maiden, who begins her interactions by saying, "I see you are maidenless," which is now the best way to say someone doesn't have a girlfriend, who allows you to use runes to upgrade yourself. The two of you journey to reclaim the Elden Ring and decide the fate of the world that shall be made in the imminent death of the current world. The story, as is traditional for FromSoft games, is vague in most of its storytelling, though clearer than most others due to Martin's involvement, with beautifully written characters, fascinating lines of dialogue, and just incredible world building. Speaking of the world of Elden Ring is beautiful. Every creature is given enough detail in their design to come off as alive. The world is highly detailed, with incredible texturing and clever design, showing both how the heart of the world still beats, but is very clearly dying. The ever-present glowing world tree, just breathtaking. Every moment of this game can be captured and called professional photography. The music that accompanies every moment of this game is also just incredible. Now to get onto the gameplay of this game. For those unfamiliar with FromSoft games, they are 3D adventure games focused on boss fights and timing, without super fast movement or flashy attacks. Just you, your sword, the roll button, healing flasks, and versus the entire world. But this game is also a well-done open-world game, with a massive map. So massive that when I thought I had almost completed the game, I zoomed out to find I had only explored less than a quarter of the map. And the addition of a horse in the core gameplay allows both a larger amount of convenience to exploration and an extra layer to the combat. Summoning allies is given more customization, with the ability to choose who you can bring into battle with you. In fact, Elden Ring is the most customizable FromSoft games. All weapons have a small magic attack to add more purpose to the magic meter, and overall, magic builds in this game are much more viable overall. All of these elements add up to fast-paced gameplay with intense boss battles, with some of the most intense pure cinematography with each battle. I have never felt more alive in battle before a game like this. Now, I need to get a little personal for a moment, as I talk about the core themes embodied by this game. Those being overcoming hardship, how a person can attain freedom, and how one finds what to do with that freedom. These core ideas permeate not just in the story, not just in the game, but in all of our lives. I can best explain what I mean by describing one of my favorite bosses and characters in the game, the Grafted King, Godric. Godric was a man who believed he could get by with nothing but his birthright and wealth. His arena is scattered with corpses and dead flowers, while also being coated in gold, a symbolism for who he is at the core. His ability to graft corpses to his body to enhance his strength, while also inheriting an entire kingdom, made him nothing but a parasite. In battle, he calls himself the Lord of all that is golden, representing who he believes himself to be. Halfway through the fight, he cuts his left arm off and replaces it with a giant decapitated dragon head, fire breath now included, showing how he is not actually withdrawing on power from within himself, but merely relies on what he's given rather than ever growing himself. His death in battle is ultimately caused by his inability to grow as a person. He never overcame hardship, never grew as a person, and never became free. All things that clash the player's journey throughout this game. And this is just one of the first bosses you fight. I hope I have made a good enough case for why you should play Elden Ring. But from the bottom of my heart, if you're a hardcore gaming veteran, a person who's never even heard of From Software, or if you've never played a video game in your life and have a functioning computer, please play Elden Ring. There's nothing in this world quite like it, and I hope you find as much value in this game.
The Tarnished will soon return, guided by grace once lost. The Golden Order is broken to its core.
Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition. Someone must extinguish thy flame.
They will fight, and they will die. In an unending curse. For how else is a champion or a lord to be born?
Well, a lowly tarnished, playing as a lord. I command thee now!
Brandish the Elden Ring. For all of us.
And on that final note, let's send it to Cami with the weather.
Thank you, Matthew. This week in Beverly Hills, we will be seeing a trend of highs in the upper 60s and lows in the high 40s, except for today. Today's low is 43 degrees, so be sure to bundle up. Tuesday and Wednesday will be around 68 degrees during the school day, and Thursday and Friday will be 67 degrees. Thankfully, there will be plenty of sunshine for us all to enjoy this beautiful early spring week. Now, let's send it back to the desk.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Norman News. I'm Grace Suomi.
And I'm Natalie Gold. We will see you next week.